Welcome back, everybody. Take 2 of the intro. You won't hear the first take. That'll be a secret. But yeah, thank you for coming back to join us for another 1215 podcast with Dan and Christie.
And Belle.
And Belle, as usual. Yeah.
Our sweet girl.
Yeah. So we are back from a short vacay. We had a great time at Myrtle Beach. Chilly, but it was nice.
So it was pretty perfect. There was
Yeah.
a time where it was like, okay, I'm cold now. But
it was like
really,
hoodie cold, though.
Yeah. The sun was perfect.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling a little like about talking about that because,
Oh, why?
well, I didn't write my book. I didn't write my book.
Loyal audience, you know what to do.
So, but
I release you.
But here is one thing that I did. There is so much that I want to get out of, off my heart, out of me, and onto a page. And it takes a lot of mental prep to get it out. And I just didn't have a lot of time to just sit and just really get into the moment. But I will say,
that was supposed to be what the whole vacation was.
I know.
A lot of sitting around waiting and prepping.
It was not that. So I did a couple voice recordings.
You did?
I did, but they will probably never be shared with the world because they are so raw.
Yeah, that's the best kind, though.
Oh, no, because it's incriminating.
It's incriminating.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want you to go to jail, honey, so.
Not me.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was really super.
Have we ever shared on the podcast the Christie going to jail story?
Well, I didn't go to jail.
We almost did.
I did not. You say that. That is not true. I did not almost go to jail.
You were almost consciously making a decision to do something that would have ended up with you in jail.
No, not even definitely. Not even definitely.
Well, I'll just say this with the audience, and you can share as much as you want. A judge said if you do something.
A lawyer.
Okay. Well.
This was me as a guardian ad litem, I will say. And
we probably shouldn't share too much about this anyway. Christie's a little bit of a troublemaker when it comes to the powers that be.
No,
in a certain county that will go unnamed.
I will fight for justice.
She was totally justified. She was fighting for justice, fighting for the right thing for children.
I was threatened by a
locking
county
you in a cage.
lawyer who said that if you testify that I don't know if it was criminal charges. It's been a long time ago, but
he basically threatened
criminal charges could be pressed against you. Yeah. And I'm going, wait a minute, this is the court. This is the courtroom where we've talked about all this stuff. These court documents were given to me. It was a whole thing. It
doesn't matter.
But you know what? If the foster parent, who I was the guardian ad litem for that child, if the foster parent was not so concerned about me and told me, I don't think you should do that, I would have done that. I would have absolutely testified because I believed in this so much.
Even with the foster mom saying to do that, you came home. I remember the conversation. You told me the whole thing, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, Christie, you can't go to jail." And I believe I'm not mistaken in saying that you were considering doing it regardless of what the foster mom said. You were still thinking about.
No, I wanted to do it.
I know you did. I'm saying I pulled back on you too.
I was a little hesitant. But I was like, you know what? This is the right thing to do. And because I didn't, because I was, I don't know. It's a tough situation. It was just such a tough situation. Yeah. But I will say I started a Facebook page, and I wrote to the editors of a local newspaper.
A lot of heads
rolled,
right?
I had a lot of calls to action.
You got to protest.
I did. That was your idea, by the way.
So just to get context, everybody listening, we're jumping all over here. So Christie, she definitely has a activist gene in her. And when she gets passionate about a cause, she's going after it. Anyway, so this whole thing's unfolding, and there's a whole drama between the political system in the county.
It is.
It was right around the time. It was political.
And this is not okay. And I still, as we talk about this,
She's
I
you can
feel
see in her
this
face right now
like
for those of you watching.
I am ready to take action again right now.
But it was right around the time in the United States. I think it was the George Floyd riots in Minnesota, and or where not Minnesota, where that was,
I don't
Ferguson,
know where that
Missouri.
was. Okay.
I don't remember wherever it was. Anyways, those there was these riots. There was a lot of protests going on and
Mhm.
whatnot. And not to get political about that, I don't want you to think that. uh, Basically, it just made me think. 'Cause I'm reading the news, I'm watching this,
So
and
sad.
Christie's talking to me about this every night, downloading to me all the juicy stuff going on with these corrupt politicians in our county, the previous county, not the county we live in now. But so I told her, and Dan should know better by now because
You have said this before on this podcast that
I
if you
if
say
I
something
say
to me,
something and
I'm like, okay, we're doing it.
so what I say to Christy is like, "Oh, you should organize a protest on the county courthouse steps," and her eyes light up,
I'm like, would you let me do that?
and I was like, "Oh no, what did I
And you said,
say?"
yeah, if it's peaceful, yeah.
I
And I
said
was like,
peaceful, and all
I went to work making
it,
signs,
but
buying
it turned
posters.
out good, right? So Christy organized a I guess not protest, a demonstration or whatever. It was a protest,
I mean,
whatever.
it was a peaceful protest. I had poster boards and I was
Yeah.
talking about protecting foster children. I
Hmm.
mean,
And you had people out there,
yeah.
and
S-
even wasn't there like
So,
somebody from the sheriff's department or something came out
yeah,
and stood
and
with you?
thanked me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Because they saw the corruption as well. But I was on the county courthouse steps
long story short,
and I had foster parents covertly bringing
they were
sunscreen
all
to me.
afraid. Yeah, they
They
were
were all
afraid to be
afraid.
there.
I had this email address. Foster parents were messaging me saying, help us, please help us
Yeah. In the
anonymously.
end, heads rolled. Let's just say we don't have
It's
to
true.
definitely don't name names or anything like that, but heads rolled, and
It's true. So I
you had
am
change. You
thankful
made change.
for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I am thankful for the change. Well, I haven't engaged again to know to what
yeah.
degree is actually changed.
Well, progress over perfection, right? You can't expect to reform everything, but
I believe that until the head of DSS of that county is removed, I
mm,
don't know that change will happen. I
yeah,
had people inside of DSS
I remember that.
messaging me saying, this person is causing, they were placing foster children who were nonverbal in homes with foster parents who had not been trained at all.
Which is a big
I'm just
no-no.
saying
Yeah.
it just was outrageous. It's not just me being a little like,
Yeah.
okay,
Let's get off the rabbit
no.
hole.
Let's get off of that. Okay, so how did we get on that? You brought that up.
I
Oh,
brought it up
about jail. Oh,
something
incriminating. I was saying,
incriminating. Yeah.
so I did. I was able to record quite a bit.
Good.
And but it was like, you know, the Lord was speaking to me, I feel like. So, or, it just felt like I was impressed in several different areas that are really difficult to even talk about.
Mm.
So maybe one day I'll put it on paper, but that's probably a topic that will have to wait for, a little while.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
sometimes you got to just start and see where it goes. The good thing
yeah.
about writing, and I'm not a writer per se, but you could change it.
Yeah.
Unlike this podcast, where we say it and put it out there.
Yeah.
But writing, I guess that's the power of it. Is there's an editing process. You can remove or adjust whatever you want to say before you release it. But
Yeah.
I
So,
encourage you to do it. I look
uh,
forward to reading it.
so the other thing is, I did not find any treasures. I mean, I did. My metal detector
The kids did
went.
that.
It
Yeah.
beeped.
Hmm.
It went off a few times, and we started digging, but we just could never find it. We could just never find it, but it was beeping. So, did I tell you the story?
I don't know.
So,
I don't know the story.
about our daughter, this is hilarious. Did I tell you this?
I don't
Okay,
know.
so she and I had been walking the beach metal detecting, okay?
Hmm.
I'm doing this because that's what we were doing with the metal detector. Okay.
It's a little tiny one, little kids one.
I did not spend that much on it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But it seemed like it was working. So it beeped,
Hmm.
and then she had the shovel and the sifter. And so she was digging, 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 digging. But she's like, I am so tired. I'm so tired. Because, it was, you get tired.
Yeah.
Even though it was
Walking.
chilly, you can get a little bit tired. And so, because she was actually in the water, in the cold water, being tossed to
The
and
water
fro
was
by the
57
waves.
degrees. It was cold. I checked because our
Mm.
our son and his cousin were there, and I was on watching duty for those boys most of the time, and
Yes, that did
they're like swimming like
happen
it's
that way.
August. They're out in the waves, frolicking, getting too far, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, are they going to get frostbite? Like, are they going to get hyperthermia? Not frostbite,
No.
hypothermia. So I'm like Googling, first of all, what's the
Aw.
water temperature at Myrtle
Thank
Beach?
you. That's so
And then I'm
responsible.
searching. I'm like, how long being in this temperature? So the water was 57 degrees, which is very cold for me. My son loves the cold though, so he seemed to be fine with it. But I'm like, how long in 57 degrees until hypothermia is a risk? And I was saying like if you're active, it's fine, but
But
it was cold.
the sun was
Yeah,
great.
but they were in the water, like
Yeah.
diving under waves and stuff. Like
Yeah.
they were full on swimming.
Yeah. It felt, I mean, on the second day, it really did feel good to be
The
in the
second day was good.
water.
Yeah.
So I think the water temperature may have been higher. But anyway, so she was really tired, had gotten, you know, sand was kind of starting to bother her skin a little bit. So, but she had been digging and all
Hmm.
this. Okay. So we walk along to the back to the pier, back to our seat. And we got back to the seat. Dan, I don't know if I told you this.
You didn't?
Okay, this is hilarious. Okay, so we get back to the seat and I put it over the bottom of the beach chair. Okay. And she's
Christy
like,
pranking her.
and she gets down. She's like, are you kidding me? We've walked this beach for like hours and it's right under our chair. And she gets down and she starts digging. And it was beeping. And she goes,
You're
I
wrong.
mean, it took a while. And I'm standing there laughing so hard. And she's like, I mean, it probably took a whole 2 minutes, Dan. She was just digging because it kept beeping. She's like, wait a minute. Is our chair metal? I said,
I do not
honey,
condone this parenting.
honey, yes. It was so funny, Dan. I'm like, can cry right now thinking about how funny it was. So, anyways, is that I do prank our kids sometimes. I do
Yeah.
prank you sometimes.
You try.
No, Choco Taco.
I mean, I knew Christy tries to prank and she'll get my son in on it and they'll come, try this food. Oh, really?
So
Is it
I
a
know
Choco
we're
Taco?
too silly. Anyways, so
We were going
those
to
are two
prank you
things.
guys. We were going to prank the audience. It
Yeah,
is April Fool's Day, but
yeah. We couldn't come up with one because
no.
you guys would probably believe every one that we would come up with,
Yeah.
which would be good, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it was a
So,
good time. We had a good time at the beach. So we live about 3 hours northwest of Myrtle Beach, and the pollen there didn't seem as bad. But here, my goodness
well, I
gracious.
think because we got a lot of trees
Well, just everywhere because
everywhere.
uh, we went to a funeral the day before yesterday,
Mm.
and I wore black, and I remember getting undressed when I got home. My black shoes were green, like it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
everywhere. It's just
Yeah.
rampant. And
Tough.
then we went to our son had a double header soccer extravaganza,
Mm-hmm.
and I came home and I was like, oh man. So if you see us itching our faces and blotchy and red, that's because we're in pollen apocalypse here in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
condolences to everybody who lives here. So
Yeah. Or has recently moved here who
yeah,
I remember when I first moved here, I
yeah.
struggled
Well, but you had so
so
this is an
much
interesting
because
thing, and
right now I don't take allergy medicine.
you
I
didn't.
will do nasal spray every once in a
But
while,
when we
but
were dating, so Christy's from Maryland, Northern
yeah.
Maryland. I'm from New Jersey, polluted. Like I think I read not too long ago. I don't know if it's still the case, but Northern New Jersey is one of the most poor air quality places in the
Mm.
United States, and if not the world, because there's all those oil refineries there. It's probably cleaner now, but when I was growing up, it was just horrible. Anyways, growing up, I never had allergies. Breathing all that city air, um,
Smog.
nothing, no issues whatsoever. Whereas when we were dating in
Mhm.
your late teens and
I
into your early
struggled.
20s, you were on daily
Yeah.
Claritin and nasal spray and getting sinus infections, and you were running through the gamut of
Yeah.
allergies.
So
When
difficult.
we moved to North Carolina after several moves, instantly, I remember instantly I have allergies. Never had allergies. Instantly. I
Mm.
remember the first in the first 6 months, I was at the doctor's office getting shots, like
Oh,
because it was so
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
And ever since, we've been in North Carolina, what?
Over 20 years.
Oh yeah, 25 years almost now.
Well,
23 years. Um, and I've been on allergy medicine since. And they keep saying, "Oh, you grow out of it." Yeah, no, I haven't grown out of it.
yeah.
Especially like
You
this time of year,
struggle,
I'm
yeah.
on nasal
I'm
sprays
more
and
of a
pills, and
fall. I struggle a little bit
I'm all
more
year
with
round.
the fall. There's a certain tree or bush, I don't know what you
Yeah.
call it, that we have at our house that when it starts flowering,
Hmm.
my nose just kind of just stops. Like it just
Yeah.
stops up so much.
I
So
went
it's
through the
like, this is the
test,
fall thing for me.
the prick test on your back, and they, pinprick you, all the different allergens, and
You're allergic to
all
what?
of them,
Grass,
everything,
trees.
stuff that's around all year round. I'm allergic to cats, even dogs a little bit, but we have a hypoallergenic dog, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I'm allergic to all of it. So yeah.
yeah. So
Anyways,
mowing the lawn, he has to wear
this
like a
time of
whole
year,
big,
I wear a
a
respirator.
whole garb
Yeah.
all over. Yeah. Anyways, so what's the topic of the
So
day?
I wanted
Because I
to.
don't even
So
know.
I alluded to, and so a dear friend of ours lost her mother, and she was up in years and really had a full life and a beautiful testimony at the end of her life. But with all that said, we won't get too much into the personals of that. But um, I said a few words at the um, service that was this weekend, memorializing her. And I kind of want to double click on the concept that I brought up there because it's something that just kind of was impressed on me. And I've thought of this before, and I thought it would be interesting to share to a broader audience because it really impacts everybody. And of course, anytime you're faced with losing somebody, in this case, it's not somebody I knew very well. I had met this individual a couple times, but I know her daughter quite well. And So in effect, I had a relationship with this individual. But the thing I mentioned was, um, so when there's so many people in life that we don't know personally, and maybe there's people that you would like to know personally, but
Like we know of them, but don't know
yeah,
them personally.
celebrities, somebody you look up to from afar,
Hmm.
somebody you revere, somebody you respect a lot, and perhaps you don't know them, but it's what was impressed on me is the kind of intertwined dynamic of humanity, of people, how um, we are really all connected and we know people. Uh, the best way I used to describe it, and when I said on Sunday, excuse me, is how we have direct and indirect relationships.
Hmm.
And, what I mean by that is um, we may not know people directly, but we know the results of those people's lives. And it's certainly true from people in times past. So, I think the example I gave is right. I never knew personally, I never knew Abraham Lincoln, never got to meet him. Obviously, that would be impossible. He was long gone before I was ever born. Yet we know of him from the effects he had on the society that we live in. Or Martin Luther King Jr. Most of us never got the chance to meet him. But most everybody knows the effects and the change he brought into our society. And so, the interesting thing that it kind of impressed me is how do I take that personally? I'm an introvert, a natural introvert, so I tend to keep fewer deep relationships. It's kind of the classical definition of an introvert from a social dynamic perspective. We tend to have very few but very deep relationships. Yet, I can't be naive to the fact that what decisions I make in life and the things that I do or don't do affect a lot more people, and even for eternity. And I don't want to ramble on here because I want to hear your thoughts on this a little bit. But two things I want to add. So I mentioned on Sunday when I talked about this, so the mathematical theory, for those of you that never heard of it, it's called the chaos theory. You might have heard of it described as the butterfly effect. So, the concept is, a butterfly flaps its wings. I think the way it was written originally, the butterfly flaps its wings in Central Park, New York, and causes just the slightest little breeze by its light, delicate wing, which triggers another reaction that causes a greater wind, breeze, and so on and so forth, a chain reaction of events to ultimately leading to a typhoon on the other side of the planet. And that's this theory, this concept. It's a mathematical theory, a scientific concept that every little thing in life triggers events that lead to other much bigger, potentially much bigger things. And I thought about in the context of life and our decisions, but then this other thing I heard recently that blew my mind. I believe it was if you haven't ever seen the YouTube channel Veritasium, it's a fantastic science-based channel, science education. I always find like a really interesting topic, and then they'll do a video on it talking about it, and it's really really good. And anyways, I believe if you want to look it up, it was something along the lines of a title of like that we'll all live forever or something like that.
Maybe you can link it.
I'll try if I can find it. Yeah, if I think of it. But the concept was we all live forever, and um, what it really, the punchline, if you will, was that everybody, our effects live on, will live on forever. And if at the minimum, of course, it talked about the decisions and the chaos theory, like I'm saying, but at the very end of the video was saying that sound, every word you say, while the voice, the volume diminishes outside the range of human hearing very quickly, right? Every word you utter, it basically decays exponentially. So, that means very, very quickly, right? But that is to say, it lingers as a whisper for eternity, albeit very, very quiet. The longer the time goes, it decays. It gets quieter and quieter and quieter, like an echo, but it's there. And so every word you speak are still traveling through the cosmos, outside the planet, outside the atmosphere. They're literally the words you spoke are traveling through space. And the electromagnetic waves that your body emits are traveling through the universe. And obviously, that's just a kind of a silly thing to think about from a practical perspective, but from kind of a spiritual perspective and from a human perspective, it's kind of profound because it helps me anyway to realize that there is no insignificant thing in our lives. Every action, everything we do has significance and has impact. Which is tough for me. That's tough to
Very
think
heavy.
about.
Kind of feel like I told one of my friends recently that I just want to kind of go away and be a monk.
Mm-hmm.
have the experience of just not talking and like for a month, 2 months,
Yeah,
however long.
I've felt that before. Yeah.
But I told her I'd be passing her notes and saying, "Meet me in the bathroom."
So we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would last 4 hours. I would probably last quite a long time doing that. Actually, that's been a thing I've thought about a lot. Like taking, I don't know, like especially in times of melancholy. Having kids, certainly snaps me out of it. It's like, no, they need me, they need my voice. But if it was just me, yeah, I probably would be in a mountain somewhere all by
Roughing it.
myself. Roughing. I don't. That doesn't even sound rough to me. Like just the silence. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a very human thing to feel and think. Um, I wonder if that's related to the realization that everything we do is impacting the world around us. It's heavy. It's a heavy weight.
So I feel like it could be also in connection to coming to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't take time to just kind of like meditate, be quiet, be still, you don't you can't see the spiritual side of things. You only can just see the flesh, like the physical side of things, and get tangled up with all the cares of this world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the quiet is where you tap into that greater awareness of just that the eternal. We talked about that before. Your eternal, just your soul living forever.
If I could blow your mind a little bit here. And the Bible talks about the quiet,
Yeah, be still and know that I am God.
in the secret place, in the quiet place. There's a lot of talk about that. And obviously what I'm about to say, this is not doctrine or anything like that, but it's Dan's speculation. I wonder if quiet, meditation, quiet is powerful and impactful because it helps us listen to those quieter voices. The Bible describes God's voice as a still, small voice. I think we could all interpret that as quiet. I know a lot of people have used that description of God's voice to think be quiet and listen. Um, this concept that what you put out there into the world lasts forever. Um, maybe being quiet tunes us into the voice, the things that we're missing, not only God's voice, but what you've put out there, and to think about it. And then this is the part that kind of blew my mind when I was thinking about it. So you think about what is the nature of God, and we say God is a spirit. The truth is, we don't know. Our minds can't we can't wrap our minds around the true nature of God. We say He's a spirit, but that just means it's something supernatural. We don't know. We can't quantify what He is, and no man can know until one day. Hopefully, we can know in His perfection. But I go to John 1:1 in the Bible, in the Gospels. He attempts to describe God before the human incarnation of Christ. He attempts to describe God as the Word. All of that, those opening texts of the first few verses of the first chapter of the Gospel of John basically are describing, that he's before the beginning, he existed in the beginning, all this, and he culminates it with the Word was God and is God. Words. Like, this is, God's voice, His word breathed into the universe, the echoes of His word is God. And what if, we identify ourselves, our own identity is so much in our flesh and what we can, see and smell and touch by our senses. But what if our essence is more what we put out there in our words than anything else? What if that is more about who we are than what we put? And think about this. I can get on a soapbox here. These days, in the social media age, especially young people, how much time, energy, and effort is spent on nurturing our image and the vain things of life, right? To make sure we look good and we smell good and we appear to be what we are. That this is who I am. I'm prosperous. I'm wealthy. I'm powerful. I'm a person of influence. When really, what's important about who you really are is about the words you say. And I would say the words you say to people, to humans.
That's super heavy. I think the Bible does say something about like that we will. I don't know if we will give an account for every word that we speak. I don't know if it says that. It says something about like it's talking against idle words,
Yeah.
basically. I don't know
I'm big
where
on
that's at,
that.
but like, don't talk just to talk.
I,
I don't like that.
yes, that is actually a pet peeve of mine. And I don't know why, but here it's been a long time, but like in the last 10 years, I've been kind of sensitive and tuned into that for myself. Like, I don't want to just say words to just be talking, right?
Yeah.
Like, it should mean something, and they should be value and impactful. The verse I read on Sunday when I was giving this thought to a group of people, Jesus says, it's in a different context, but I think it applies here. Jesus tells people that you will know people by their fruit. And obviously that's a analogy based on, farming, that was relevant to those people there. But the concept here is You don't know people like, oh, that's the guy that drives the black BMW. That's what we think. That's the, oh, that's the family that lives in that big house on top of the hill. Or, oh, that's the guy that has this powerful position, all that. That's all vain. Like, think about what that's
Solomon said everything is
what's
vanity.
gonna what how
Mm,
if that's what our identity is,
mm,
any of those things, and name, add a bunch more. That's the individual that has 200,000 followers on Instagram, right? Or
mm.
whatever. 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years from now, is that going to be impactful if that's what your identity is? Or are you going to be a person that is known by his words? You know, yeah, I named a couple people that largely, mentioned Abraham Lincoln,
Mhm,
John, and Martin Luther King
mhm.
Jr. They're known by their words, by what they said. I have a dream,
And their
right?
actions too.
Yeah, but
But yes, I understand what you're
it's all
saying.
came from the words.
Mm.
I'm saying, the thing that's impactful to me, that's revelatory to me in this concept is, um, we're all uh, riding on a lake called life, and we're making ripples and waves, and those ripples and waves have an impact on the shore
Mhm,
and around.
mhm, mhm.
And the most impactful thing in life is what we speak, how we speak, the words we say, the things that we allow to come out of our mouth. I'm not big on like this whole manifestation thing, like say, name it and claim it, or, oh, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to build a business, or I'm going to be, I'm going to have a six pack. Yeah, that's not going to work unless you do something. But with that said, the words we speak
Mhm.
have tremendous impact. I personally think that the words we speak have way bigger impact than we realize in the real span of existence, outside the realm that we can see. Outside we can see, our words seem very cheap. We even say, and I say it all the time, talk is cheap, right? And it is to a certain extent, but I believe in the broader reality, spirit and physical world, our words are super significant.
There's a scripture that says, "Let your words be few." Just make them count, I guess. There is a study done, and I can't say for sure where this was done or when this was done, but there was a study that was done, about talking to plants.
Plants. I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk nice to a plant,
My mom used to talk to our plants,
and
her
they
plants.
and they lived amazingly, and you talk mean to a plant, like, this was actually something that was scientifically,
Yeah, no, no, no.
proven. You talk mean to a plant and it dies,
Mm.
and you talk life to a plant and it lives.
So the
Well, in
pre
the end, the scripture also says, "Speak life,"
yeah.
and that the power of life is in the tongue. It
Mhm.
actually says
It
that.
does. There's so
Yeah, in
much in the
James, I
Bible about it.
think. Okay,
There's
yeah.
actually, if you go and,
The
there's a
power of life and death is in the
in the
tongue, is what it
tongue.
says. Yeah.
Um, the tongue is like a fire,
Mhm, who
and
can tame it?
yeah, there's so much. You can go on to,
Yeah.
the Pentecostal, beliefs of speaking in tongues and why that is important and why that's relevant.
Mm,
There's so much that relates to this, but I will say the pragmatic side of me, I try to, understand, like, well, why? What about words that we speak? What is the mechanism that's causing it to be significant? Is it the actual fluctuations and pressure going through the air? Well, no, it's not it, because, you know, that's meaningless. Um, and I don't know, but one thing I do know, the one thing I can rationalize is, like the plant thing, talking to plants.
mhm.
I do know that words we speak in our physiology, take the spiritual aspect out of it, words we speak definitely shape who we become.
Yes,
So
because
if you speak
yes.
negatively, certainly in a repeated basis towards anything, a plant or child or
Mm,
your job, then that's
mm,
going to end up being
yeah.
negative.
So the scripture, "As a man thinks, so is he."
Hmm.
So it starts in your thoughts. We've talked about that probably a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a scripture I think that also says that out of the abundance of the heart, the
The mouth
mouth
speaketh.
speaks.
Yeah.
And so I think in order to really connect with the meaning of your words, I think you have to dig deeper to know what is in your heart. Because out of the heart,
I think what that
the
verse is
mouth
saying is
speaks.
what's in your heart is going to come out of your mouth.
So I'm saying
If you don't believe it,
check yourself.
oh
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Check your
check
heart.
yourself before you wreck
Check
yourself. Yeah,
yourself
that's
before
what I
you
say
wreck
to
it.
our kids sometimes. You better check yourself before you wreck yourself. But yeah, so in your heart, like
Yeah,
what
it
is in
all
your
starts in your
heart?
heart. Yeah,
Yeah, I think of and I know like you're saying you're not big on like manifesting and all of that stuff, but I do think that there's so much scripturally that would lend itself, I think, to the belief of, you know, have faith as if it's already done.
yeah,
So we have faith that, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we we're supposed to, well, I don't know, this may just be something that we were told as we were growing up, connected to our religious affiliation, that praise as if it's already happened. So is that scriptural?
I mean, not verbatim, but the concept is, I think what you just said, the concept of faith. That's where all this manifestation movement, comes from. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
I just don't like. I don't know. It puts the manifestation doctrine or movement, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it. I feel like it encourages less personal accountability into the outcome,
Mhm.
and more so it puts so much emphasis on
Just words?
believing and words. But
Mhm.
then I go back to, so you quoted, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of not seen. But then also Paul says,
Faith without works is dead.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
So
I'm thinking of like the walls of Jericho. Okay, so
so
people marching around.
before we get off that, yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's a great example. I want you to go with that, but I think the point is, if you believe something enough, and the voice is, it's almost like committing. It's like we were talking last week, right? You put that out there, you're going to write this book, right? You spoke it. And so there's an accountability associated with speaking. Certainly if you're doing it repeatedly, you're putting it out into the universe. It's in your heart.
Mhm.
You've taken the next step to speak it. There's power in that. There's influence in that. But the power is in how that affects you and what it's going to cause. So the third step of that is the action, right? So
Mhm.
there's the belief, there's the faith, there's the speaking, which is the
Mhm.
accountability, and then there's the works. That's
Mhm.
the
So they
action.
all work
They
together,
all work together.
or
And
else
that's why
nothing
Paul
happens, right?
says, show me your faith without your works. I'll show you my faith with my works, right? It all works together. So the manifesting, I feel like, just stops short. I'm all for it.
Mhm.
I'm all for that belief and, saying it and believing it and even reciting, these things, like every morning. I'm all about that.
Mhm.
But make sure you don't discount your role in that happening. Like
Yeah.
you have an integral part. You're the CEO of it happening.
Yeah. So like you said earlier, like I'm gonna have a six pack. I'm gonna have a six pack. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a six pack. Well, you can say that all you want and
Stop
still
eating
eat like
Twinkies. Yeah.
right. I was just about to say Reese's cups, you
So
know?
share the Jericho. I mean, that's the perfect example. That's the
Yeah.
perfect example.
I was just thinking as you were speaking
It's a
about
great
this,
story.
like,
Yeah.
okay, so what are we doing? We're marching around this wall.
Hmm.
Okay.
We were told.
And we're quiet.
Yeah. They were given
They were
instructions.
supposed to not talk.
Yeah.
Was it like 7 days?
7 times. Yeah. Every day. Yeah. So 7 days. On the seventh day, yep. You want me to share it?
Well, I'm just, yeah, if I don't remember the numbers. So it was like
Yeah.
seven
So
days. I don't know that that's really relevant, but
Moses is given the instructions, seemingly random. It's the
yeah.
first major fortified city they run into. I was at Jericho. I saw the
Mm,
ruins of the wall
it's
25 years
amazing.
ago. But they're basically wandering in the Arabian Peninsula, just wilderness, desert, and this is the first like civilized big city they run into. That's in the way to get to what's today Palestine, Israel, and so Moses gets the instructions from God. So there's
Mm,
so much belief here. These people,
yeah.
Moses has to believe this random, almost Noah like orders from God.
Yeah.
He's got to believe it. He's got to now speak it
Yeah.
to the people. The people have to believe Moses. There's a trust there. They
Mm,
have to act on this
yeah.
to the T. And they
Mm,
know from experience that Moses, instead of
he means
speaking to the
business.
rock, he's smacking
Oh.
the rock and gets
Mhm,
punished.
mhm,
So they know that details matter. And they do. They obey. They follow. Joshua marches them around. I guess it wasn't Moses, right? It was Joshua.
I was wondering, like, I don't
My
remember
bad,
Moses.
Joshua. Moses is
Okay.
gone at this point. They're marching around and they listen but the point is, what would have happened if they just said, yeah, focused on the end result, the walls are going to come crumbling down, and not follow through in the action, their part in it, right? So there was like
Mm.
6 days of silent walking around, and
Yeah.
on the seventh day shouting, and the walls obviously did come down. So there's a supernatural aspect to it,
They
but
believed, though,
believed enough to do it.
that now, so this is, I need to do my research because this just like popped into my head as I said. Did they know that the walls were going to come down? Is that what they were
I believe so. I
praying
believe that's
for?
what the instructions were. At
And
the
then the
very
walls will
least,
come down.
at
So,
the
like,
and I
kind
don't
of
want to
like that
pull it
was,
up right now, but I believe at the very least victory, maybe not
yeah,
crumbling walls or something like
specific.
that, but
So, but they knew that they had to march around that
they
city
knew that,
wall
yeah, 6 days
and
silently and the seventh day shout.
silently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, silence, not a word.
Yeah. And then on the seventh day, they use their voice.
Mhm.
And then, so what does that mean? Does that at all within you, does that make you feel like there's such a power in your
I
voice?
have to believe that.
I mean, walls are coming down.
It's a symbol for our lives, and I'll translate that to modern day. You get a promise from God, whether you're reading the Bible or a man of God, a mentor, a parent, whoever tells you, look, listen, I really feel like God told me that,
Mm,
if you do X, Y, and Z, God's going to do this.
mhm.
So let's say, you're a young person and, you're looking for a mate, you're looking for a spouse, right? A mate. That's kind of crude. You're looking for a spouse. Sorry. Um,
Well, you were probably thinking help meet
I did.
and then just said
So
mate.
let's
Okay.
say you're a young person looking for a spouse, or a career, or whatever, and a parent or a pastor or a mentor comes up to you and says, look, if you really just take the next year and forget about that. And I'm saying this because this happened to me.
Me too. Mhm.
If you forget about that and just focus on your relationship with God, build a prayer life, build disciplines, and truly put those kind of things off to the side. And this is my mom speaking to me, and my pastor, and several people in my life at the time. And 17-year-old Dan did that. And I've told a story before. I don't remember if I shared it on the podcast, but what that looked like for me, I grew up in a church. My dad and my grandfather were both pastors and preachers and ministers, and but had a pretty shallow relationship with God at that 15, 16-year-old mark. And I really felt like at that 17-year-old, series of events triggered this decision for me to kind of forget about my future, put it on hold, and build spiritual and spiritual disciplines. But what I did is I tied it to physical discipline. So
Mhm.
I built a discipline at 17 years old to do 100 push-ups, to read at least one chapter of the Bible, and to pray at least 10, 15 minutes every night before I went to sleep. And that didn't happen overnight. It took a long time, especially the push-ups thing. But I did it. I did that, and I built that discipline well into us dating.
Yeah.
I was doing that, and that's the end from the beginning, right? So my
Mhm.
physical action of that discipline ended up, I don't know, I feel like God sent us together, and Christy has a
Mhm.
similar testimony to share. But that's what the point is, like, um, putting that action in a lot. It would be easy for me to hone in on the end result. Oh, God's going to give me my promise. A virtuous woman, a
Mm.
beautiful young lady to date and ultimately become my wife. It would have been easy, and I think a lot of people focus in on that promise portion of it and
Mm.
forget the your part,
The work that
the
goes
work
into it.
part. Yeah,
Yeah, when we were dating, you would even be like, "Okay, I gotta go. We would be talking on the phone
yeah, I'd be
because we was at
exhausted.
3 it was about a 3-hour away. We lived 3 hours away from each other,
Yeah,
so we didn't see each other just on weekends and not even every single weekend.
I was in
Um,
college too.
which
Yeah,
I would say that I would recommend. I prefer that for our kids. Long distance dating makes me feel a
it was
little better when I
expensive.
think about that.
It was
But,
expensive.
yeah, but anyways, but I remember there were times that we'd be talking and you'd be like, "All right, I gotta go. I gotta go read my Bible. I've gotta go." And I'm like, "Wait a minute."
You're talking to
Hello.
me.
But I appreciated that so much about you. There was something that you said as you were talking. You said, "This is my mom speaking. This is my pastor speaking," which just further solidifies that their words mattered so much in your life that you're saying them right now.
The waves,
Do you know what I
the
mean?
ripples
Like
in the lake
that just
continue.
happened.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you this is something I've been thinking about recently, how um so this it basically also confirms what you're saying. If all this, I don't know about this scientifically speaking, if your words just do continue, it is proven. Is it proven? I mean, can you prove that? I don't know.
Um, we can talk about yeah, we can nerd out on that, but yeah, I mean, mathematically, scientifically, like everything in the universe, it's called entropy, right? Everything decays,
Mm,
but it still exists.
exists. Okay.
It just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but it's there.
Mhm.
It's always there.
So this would be why I was thinking recently of the prayers of people who have gone before us
Hmm.
are have been prayed, and that they are still, like, you hear of grandmas who pray for their grandchildren to be
Yeah.
saved, and then they just go on to be with the Lord. But then later on,
Yeah.
their grandchild is like, they come to know the Lord, and they go, I know is my grandma's prayers. Um, so so that is comforting
Yeah.
to know that the prayers of those who have gone before. And I will say too, there have been times that we have woken up in the middle of the night and felt to pray for something. And then there was one night, this has been a little while ago. There was one night I woke up and I was praying for my parents and their safety.
Hmm.
And I didn't know why, but I felt like somebody, like it was like a scary thing in the moment. And someone was trying to get in their window that night. My mom told me the next
Yeah.
morning, and I'm like, "This
That
is
happened
why I
while we're
woke
dating
up."
too. That happened while we're dating. You guys were home and I was woke
Oh,
up
yeah.
and prayed specifically for your family's safety. And your dad was a truck driver, so he was often away on the road. And it
Mhm.
turned out the same thing happened. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it happens. All
Yeah, we
right,
gotta cut this
we got to cut
short.
it short. But
We got a guest.
we have a guest that just rolled up a little early.
Oh,
Um,
boy, okay.
but we're thankful for all of you. So I just want to close with just saying, hopefully what I shared, inspires each one of you to. I know it has me, but it inspires you to speak life, to
Mhm.
speak kindly to the people around you, and motivate and inspire. Know that everything that we say, and the action certainly, but even the words you say, has eternal impact. So
Yeah,
let's do our part. Let's make waves.
yeah.
Christy said that, and in a casual passing by conversation,
Well, I
and
feel like the Lord was speaking to me on that.
yeah,
We'll talk about
we'll
that the
talk
next
about that some other
time.
time. All right, everybody.
All right.
Thank you all. We love you. See you next week.